Hello, folks. This is Oily. Thanks for dropping in and joining us this evening. Oklahoma is trying to follow his link in here, so hopefully he'll be in here soon because he's the one that prepped for this topic. So if he has issues, then we'll be discussing something else tonight. Um, but I just want to, oh, there, he's popping in now. But appreciate you all coming. I hope everybody had a wonderful, those that celebrate, a wonderful Thanksgiving. And if you did your shopping or whatever, that's great. I stayed home and just enjoyed it.
Smart.
Hawaii's trying to log in. Let me.
Volcano eruption.
Y'all. So I don't think it'll be too difficult to get Mouse Toes to snorting this evening because we've already had her laughing pretty hard in the internal ears. Snorting.
Listen,
Snorterson.
I have a condition, clearly, okay, where if I laugh really hard, that happens. It doesn't really happen to me in life, but it's you when you're trying to chat and read the comments and things go wonky and you have things like hashtag funeral dating, I come unglued because you people are funny. Yeah, crotch rot. Yeah, sterile urine. I mean, we are some odd freaking ducks up in here. Okay, so yeah. Oh, God.
We're not the odd ones. Everybody else is odd. We're normal, right?
Okay, right, that works.
I'm sticking to it.
Oh, God. Mr. Rain said turkeys did not have a good Thanksgiving.
Oh, my gosh, my turkey was the best this year. I finally broke down and used a bag to cover it to keep the moisture in. Cover that up with the olive oil and salt and pepper, and that was all I needed. And stuffed onions and carrots and celery up inside there and oiled it up and salt and peppered the whole thing inside and out. He's good to go. It was delish. It was so good.
See, we get a fresh turkey now and do it, and then we have a big roaster. But you're right, we did it with the bag for the longest time because it guaranteed us that we had a moist turkey, because we fill it full of dressing. It's dressing in the South, not stuffing. And we used to think stuffing in its butt, and of course it's its neck. The whole turkey is confusing to some of us. It's like, you shove it in its butt.
I'm supposed to eat it or crap it out.
It's fun, and the way it makes your
hashtag dressed and confusing.
Yes, it is.
Dressed and confusion.
And the way
there we go.
The way it makes your house smell as it's cooking. Oh, it's amazing. I'm glad you nailed it this time because it's a great feeling.
It was good, but I didn't get to go to family's house this year because my granddaughter came over, and bless her heart, she had strep throat again.
Oh, God. Welcome to
and exposed us. So then I didn't want to go and expose my mom, who's in her 70s. That would be not a good thing. So, or my little nephew that would have been over there too.
Right.
So I just stayed home, cooked for the immediate family, which was kind of nice, except for my daughter didn't come out, and my granddaughter was at home with her mama because she wasn't feeling well. So.
Right. One of the best Thanksgivings Vern and I had was we averaged moving every 9 months for the first 11 or 13 years we were married because he'd be on construction jobs fresh out of college, and the jobs kept getting bigger and bigger. And we find ourselves in Ottumwa, Iowa, which, by the way, is not the end of the world, but you can see it from there. Okay. So because we want to go to my parents in New Orleans for Christmas, and you're on a construction site where everybody's not from there. So somebody goes home Thanksgiving, you get Christmas. So we cooked our first Thanksgiving ever. And yes, it's me, hidden humidity, talking. It's a chat, for crying out loud. Okay, it's my job. It's my job. So we get there's the Hy-Vee grocery store up there in Iowa's. Oh, and if you smile in Iowa, that's a show of teeth, which is a form of aggression. So we learned that real quick. You don't smile. You don't say, "Hey, how y'all? How's your mom and them?" I was not on planet Earth anymore. But anywho, back to my story. we get like a 12-pound frozen butterball. And then we defrost it the night before, and when I open it the next day, it is purple and black and freezer burned. And the only turkey they had left was a 26-pounder, which was frozen. And so we take an axe to it in the snow and chop it in 4 pieces to drive to a friend's house in a snow and ice storm to use their microwave because our rental shack didn't have one. We had like 7 pots. We used all of them. Best Thanksgiving we ever had, and the meal was ready at midnight 30.
Oh, God.
But it was a memorable one, see? And then, of course, we got to go home at Christmas. My mother saved us with good food. So it worked out.
Well, it was kind of nice not to have to run here or there for Thanksgiving this time. But, well, let's get on with our subject. Hopefully, Oklahoma. Goodness, my external's looking like it's buffering. I hope it's not the same for y'all. Hope you can hear us okay and everything's going all right. Okay, so Oklahoma, let's check out your volume and make sure you're all right.
Crotch rot 1 2. Crotch rot 1 2.
Oh my God.
That's a 10-4 on the sterile urine. Go ahead, come back.
All right. Breaker 1 9. All right, whenever you're ready.
You got a bear on your 20.
I did bump up your volume, but it's still low. Hey, Faith, welcome. Okay, welcome everybody, and Oklahoma and Mastos and Squibload and Hawaii Volcano Squad are here with me tonight. FLP said that he probably had to work tonight, so he may have to be working. So,
Finger. I love Finger.
Yes. Finger Lakes Prepper, for those that don't know. So, anyway, but we're going to have some fun and enjoy ourselves, and so I'm looking forward to it. Huh, that was a little weird.
I need to speak up. Do I need to speak up, Wee Tree?
Just a little bit.
Mic check.
But you have no echo. You sound really clear.
All right. We'll see how long that lasts.
Hey, it's going to last. Have faith.
So tonight, our topic is about air quality emergencies, and explain why we decided to do this particular one, why you suggested it, Oklahoma.
All right. The other day, do you remember what day it was, Oily? Monday?
I can tell you just a second.
It was the Monday before Thanksgiving. That's all I know. The Monday before Thanksgiving, a train had derailed behind my house. From where I'm sitting to my to the railroad track is 2 blocks away. 2 blocks away from my house. That's really close. Where the train derailment site was about a quarter of a mile south of my house.
Oh.
I think it was about a half mile. But anyways, from my house, you could look out in the backyard and you can see everything clearly. There's not a lot of leaves and stuff on the trees at this time of year. So you could see through the trees quite clearly, and you could see the lights and everything from the train the re-railing crew. So that, you guys know I listen to my radio. I listen to fire department. I have a couple of scanners, and I have a couple of these. This is 2 out of 3 of these handheld radios, and I can listen to anything I program into. These are not scanners. These are handheld radios, 2-way radios. I talk about these a lot. I always bring these up. These are also great to have. I listen to specifically, I listen to my local fire, police, and EMS, of course, for not just to be nosy. Things happen more often than not around here, believe it or not. For example, I was on a live show a while back, about a year ago, when an incident happened a block away from my house, and they had to block off the area. So, there's always something going on around here. I listened to the railroad specifically so that I could be one of the first ones to know if a train derails or a vehicle is hit by a train near my house, because in order for the chain of command, when you're dealing with railroad, is when it can take a few seconds before a train crew realizes that the back end of their train is derailed or is detached from the rest of their train.
Right.
So turn his volume only. Turn his
Can,
volume up only.
Or-
can you
Yeah, I got
use
it up
like your
all
outside? Do you have an outside voice, Oklahoma?
I'm trying. So
Mhm.
I don't know if it's this, my mic or what. But if I take my headset off, then it'll be real echoey, and I don't want to do
Right, and
that.
I
So
hear you great through my headset.
Yeah, and
it's
I hear
probably through the
you
feed.
now.
It's probably through the feed that it's not getting very good. It may be better once it's downloaded and re re re-uploaded to YouTube. But I'll try to talk louder anyway. So a train had derailed behind my house. Luckily, there was coal and another byproduct of coal called coke. Luckily, it was inert, very high temperature burning points. So there is, you know, a lot less of a hazardous material um, um, contamination involved with that. So we got very lucky. That same day, another train had derailed. Uh,
Sheesh.
just a few days ago, a train in Florida carrying molten sulfur derailed and spilled the chemical.
Oh,
The reason later on the radio, I was listening. Actually, the next night when the track was back reopened, um, they had determined that there was a break in the rail on the crossing. So that was most likely what contributed to the accident. Now, what caused that break in the rail? Most likely, last night it got down to 36 degrees here where I'm at, and today it was about 72, 73. I mean, it was perfect. So
Gosh.
low temperatures at night, high temperatures during the day makes it a lot easier for any type of metal to fatigue and fracture. So therefore, that rail had broken, and we are on a we are on what's called dark territory or non-signaled um, track sections. So that means everything has to go by track warrants. And in the event that a rail breaks in signal territory, then that break in the rail will basically separate a connection. It's like turning off a light switch, and the section of rail that is broken, the light will automatically turn red, and that will keep any trains from approaching that block. While a track inspection crew goes through and figures out why the light has not uh, been allowed to turn green. Dark Territory was a Steven Seagal film, and it was a great film. But the term Dark Territory comes from signaled and non-signaled track sections. So, without any type of track inspection crew to know that there was a break in the rail, there was no other way of the train crew to know that the there was a break in the rail, of course. So the track speed where I'm at is 50 miles an hour. So at the time that the train derail happened, the train itself was going 50 miles per hour.
mm,
So uh, once the chain of events started happening, at the end of the derail, by the time the train was completely stopped, there were 23 cars in the dirt or on the ground or derailed. The railroad terminology is in the dirt or on the ground. But there was 23
Wouldn't that
cars
be the same place though, in the dirt on the ground?
close enough. Uh, depends on who you are. Well, there's
Okay.
about in an ideal situation, under a train there's a rail. So a lot of people will say, well, aren't they all on the ground? No, technically they're on rail, and
Gotcha.
below that rail is ballast rock.
Oklahoma, I'm just telling you right
Yes.
now, don't look at the external comments because everybody's being smart alecks tonight, and it will totally take your brain off topic because they got like their britches in a wad or something. I don't know what the deal is, but everybody's like, when he's gonna get to his points and da 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 da. Well,
What
just hang on.
we're going to release in through the ventilation system shortly something that'll make them happier. So don't worry, Oklahoma.
There you go.
We got
Happy
you.
gas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're going to release macaroni and cheese through the ventilation system?
Eruptions here.
All right. So the point is, okay, 23 cars were on the ground. 23 cars were derailed. Luckily, none of them were chemical. That close to my house could have posed a significant, and that close to town could have posed a significant disaster, a disaster of significant proportions. I mean, you're talking chemicals, anything from oxidizers to carbon monoxide. CO2 is a refrigerated liquid, and it can be transported by rail. Metals, powder dust, stuff like that. Magnesium, anything from flammable liquids, liquefied compressed gases, corrosive gases, any type of toxic gases. Every one of these chemicals are transported by rail in any given time anywhere in the U.S. Every one of these chemicals, anything from toxic, hazmat, nuclear waste is even transported by rail.
So why do you live by a rail road then?
This stretch of highway is on the Chisholm Trail in Oklahoma, and there's a town about every 10 miles between pretty much Mexico up to Kansas on the Chisholm Trail.
And some people don't have the money just to move at will.
Right. Trains. I love living next to a train in North Carolina. Love it.
We rented this house here primarily because I love trains, and it goes right through my backyard. They're not all bad.
Yes.
That's why I love trains, because I live so close.
Yes.
I had to do a hard reset on my computer, so it's not acting right anymore. But so that, I grew up in this house. This house was given to me. I don't have to pay any bills. I mean, other than an internet and light, this is the only bills I have to pay. So, who wouldn't want a free house?
Heck yeah.
So, in the event that a train derails or any type of chemical spill near you or near your town or in your town or whatever, it doesn't even have to be. It can be a mile away, but you're still going to be affected by it. Now, when, of course, gravity pulls everything down to the lowest point, there are a lot of gases that are heavier than air. Liquefied propane gas, of course, is a liquid and then evaporates into air and then is dispersed. That liquid, before it evaporates, is going to flow. Molten sulfur, some of you guys seen in Florida, flowed down into water drainage and downward. Anything's going to flow downhill. You want to stay upwind, uphill, away from the contamination, away from the spill, because there's several videos on YouTube. I'm not going to point anyone out directly. There's one specific when a train derails in a town, and you can see the dash cam video of this police officer trying to respond to the derailment, and then he pulls up in this fog, and then he stops and then backs up, and he's just backing up, and then next thing you know, there's this everything. That entire town was pretty much evaporated because of that chemical spill, and that gas, heavier than air, will float along the ground into drainage ditches, into basements, into sewage drainage areas. Anything. It's really, really difficult to contain a gas. So when you're dealing with a chemical spill of any type, whether it be a road hazard, whether it be a semi turned over on the road, spilling out crude oil or diesel, or a train derailment with 23 cars on the ground and spilling all kinds of chemicals.
Can I, for 1 second, Oklahoma, what you're talking about, watching those and not counting on 911 to know what to advise you when you're a little bit outside that. And there were some made for TV things back in the day when we told the truth that are now on YouTube about people calling 911 and saying, oh, get in the shower. And instead, what that did would cause to activate and burn it. So you are spot on about the bad things that can happen for that. And don't count on 911 to have a deep understanding of what you should and shouldn't do in those situations.
Don't count on 911 to send the cops. When we had shots fired at my condo, that guy who later first he threatened to set the building on fire, and then he shot out the windows, and somebody called 911. They called 911 at 7 in the morning, and the cops showed up like at 3 p.m. So like shots fired at 7 in the morning, they show up at 3 p.m.
Yeah. Isn't that why 200,000 Americans just had background checks done over Black Friday shopping for guns? Right. Bring your own. Go ahead, Oklahoma. I'm sorry, Sugar.
No, that brings me to my point about the radios earlier, and I'm glad you reminded me of that, because the chain of command from the time a train crew realizes that there's a problem to the time that you get a knock on the door can be up to an hour. The train crew first has to be aware of the situation. Then they have to put in DTMF tones in a radio that calls the train dispatcher. Where I live, the train dispatcher from where I live here in southern Oklahoma is in Omaha, Nebraska.
Wow.
So, yes. So there's not a train dispatcher in Chickasha that deals directly with the train that's going through my town. That train dispatcher is in Omaha, Nebraska. So they have to, relay that information. Hey, this is train number whatever. We're on the ground at near this town. We don't know what's going on yet. Okay, you're on the ground near this town. They have to repeat all the information back to the train. Then they say, yes, that's correct. And then they get on their computer. They Google, Oklahoma City Sheriff's Department. And then they, have to figure out how much area that covers. Then they have to figure out what towns to call. They're going to call the sheriff's office. They're going to call the cities near those areas. They're going to call the fire departments, and then notify the dispatchers. Then the dispatchers have to tone out the fire, police, and EMS. Then once fire, police, and EMS have determined what type of chemical and what type of hazardous material, what type of impacts this is going to have on the environment and in the community, then they have to make the decision to whether or not they are going to go door to door and then knock and to evacuate. So you have to take into consideration it goes through. By the time it gets to you, that's 4 people. That's the train crew, railroad dispatcher, 911 dispatcher, and then fire, police, or EMS to you. So, like I said, that can take up to an hour before you get notified. It can take up to 20 minutes before your local 911 dispatcher is notified if, they don't pick up the phone and call 911. And there are, if a train crew picks up a phone and calls 911, they're automatically fired. It's against Federal Railroad Administration policy and rules to carry a phone on the train turned on. So, immediately they're going to get fired. But, by the time you're notified of a train derailment, there's already so much that's already happened. So, your best bet, and for example, when you mentioned get in the shower and decon, there are I'm looking at the emergency response guidebook for 2017, and I've just happened to be on a corrosive water reactive substance. Now, this can, I'm going to read one of the potential hazards from the health section of this. And it says corrosive and or toxic inhalation, ingestion, or contact with skin and eyes with vapors, dust, or substance may cause severe injury, burns, or death. Fire will produce irritating, corrosive, and or toxic gases.
Reaction. I think I'm ready for this chat now. Got my gas mask on.
There you go.
There you go.
Reaction with water may generate much heat that will increase the concentration of fumes in the air. Contact with molten substance may cause severe burns to skin or eyes, and runoff from fire control or dilution water may cause pollution.
Yeah,
some of these, what happens when you spray water on a magnesium fire? Does anybody know?
To get bigger?
Yeah, it'll explode.
It explodes. Magnesium has a reaction with water while it's burning, and it will explode.
Magnesium burns at, I think, 5,000 degrees.
Yes, I have a magnesium bar. I use this to pour water on this, and it doesn't do anything. I can shave it off and pour water on it. It doesn't do anything. I can spark the shavings, and pour water on it, and there will be a small explosion. So when you're dealing with any type of chemicals, you have to know what is, what can get rid of the chemical irritation. If it's, vinegar, vinegar is an acid neutralizer. Vinegar and water is an acid neutralizer. So
your volume
water
kind of went down again, Oklahoma. So just make sure enunciating and speaking up.
You project.
Vinegar is a acid neutralizer. So if you pour acid on you, on battery acid, pour some vinegar on there, and it would help to neutralize the acid. Water can wash off some chemicals. Water can react negatively to some chemicals. So, if you get contaminated, go immediately. Do not go straight to the hospital. Go to a fire department. Go to the firefighters and say, "Hey, I spilt this on me." That way they can properly decontaminate you.
And they can do it quick too.
Yes, and if you're not properly decontaminated by the time you get to the hospital, you can end up going straight into the hospital and contaminating more people, contaminating the medical crew that works in the hospital and other patients.
And the area itself, which then contaminates other crew and.
Yeah, I just got an email about some substance that, here it is, from Are You Ready for a Chemical Attack? Here it is. There's a company called RSDL that makes a decontamination product, a RSDL kit. Let me get that up for you guys on the screen share.
What's bad is, all the looky-loos that want to go to these wrecks and see what's going on, not realizing there could be toxic stuff there. So one of the biggest tips I can give people is you don't go towards the wrecked train or wrecked tanker or whatever it is.
Yeah, here's my big chance to get a YouTube video.
Yeah, no kidding. Go away. Keep in mind the direction the wind's coming from. Want to get away as quickly as you can, and
even in the military, many of you probably know who Dave Reaver is, and he's a Christian comedian, and he was in Vietnam and was hit with a phosphorus hand grenade, and so his buddy on the boat pushed him into the water. Well, he came up, and of course he was still on fire, and as he said, I was beside myself as his skin was ablaze. So then they get him back on the boat. A helicopter comes and they put him into the Vietnam era, what do you call those, where you carry somebody, the stretcher. And of course it's cloth, and he burns his way through it because he's still on fire, and they did not know how to extinguish it. And then he gets in the helicopter and it's taking fire and it's going down, and he says, I know at this moment that I am going to be the only survivor. That to just the complicated things of how we've learned how to take care of those. But I've heard that from other people too, which is call a fire department. You know, it can be in another city when it happens. So once they tell you what was in that tanker, you don't have to do 911, and they can give you the skinny on how to decontaminate and what to do very, very quickly. And that's why the importance of having the numbers and the placards on 18-wheelers and trains is so important, so that when the fire department or authorities get there, they know what the heck was in there, right?
So it says here on this particular product that I'm screen sharing, if you can see it, the reactive.
Hold on, let me present you.
The reactive skin decontamination lotion kit is intended to remove, neutralize chemical warfare agents and T2 toxin from the skin. It's military grade, lightweight, FDA cleared, and starts working in 2 minutes. The threat of exposure to chemical warfare agent is real. Be prepared, and it's military grade, and they have a demonstration. Anyway, it's on rsdlready.com. You can get it if you want to add it to your preps. And there's a screen share for you. So
nice.
Hope that helps.
Yes, that's great.
So I guess reading my email.
I'm having to refresh my external like every 5 minutes, not just to post a comment, because we know we just, you know, click outside the chat box and go back. But if not, the screen is just frozen, and I had to refresh it to see. Okay, now you're scaring me with that mask on. See, that's the first I've seen of that.
Well, I think the mask scares you. Squib, I measured this sword. That's 30. This is my new sword.
Nice.
I saw the movie 300.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same design.
Nice.
It's really, it's just over 30 inches. It's all the weight. There's a lot of weight in the forward part of the blade, so it's like when you swing it, you've got extra mass that when it starts moving, it's going to want to hit with a lot of extra force because it's heavy.
Gotcha.
Heck yeah.
And it was on
Well,
sale for $20, so I couldn't pass it.
Heck yeah. Finger Lakes Prepper, he did a chat on a similar subject about air quality emergencies. They mainly talked about H2S gas. If there was an H2S gas leak, that's something my husband works around all the time. So, you know, that was really neat. And I didn't catch all of it. I caught about to the last half of it. But you guys can also look on FLP, Finger Lakes Preppers website, and look back. It was a couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And Oklahoma's having to restart his phone, so he'll be back in just a minute. But that was really interesting. And, you know, the H2S, like, if you're not wearing a tag to know it's there, by the time it hits you and you smell it, you're gone.
Yep.
Is
Typically.
it dihydrogen sulfide?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of it. I know it's nasty stuff, but I don't know what the effects are on it.
Sour gas will just drop you dead. Another name for it, sour gas. It'll just drop you over dead. So.
Well, I think I'm going to take my gas mask off.
Chickens are your first indicator of H2S. Yeah, if you've got an oil well anywhere close by you that can emit that, then you should be paying attention. If you look outside and you see a couple of your animals fall over dead, you probably don't want to go outside. You want to probably grab a gas mask or something to that effect and do the best you can to get the heck out of Dodge.
That's what Art just said. Your chickens are your first indicator. Yep.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, that was a very interesting chat, and it was kind of on similar ground here. But you know, Oklahoma talking about, you know, he's kind of pointed out all the train derailments, and there have been a lot in the last few months. On our chat, it seems like he's telling us about another 2 or 3 a week sometimes. And so, yeah, unless it's fainting goat's faith, yeah, that's not anything to be startled at if you see them falling over. But yeah, talking about the train derailments and how likely it could be at some point that it would be carrying a dangerous toxic chemical.
Yes.
With that being in the air, you kind of need to do your own research and get with your emergency management people in your area about the protocols for different things in your area. So, hey, ISOM, AISOM, and Informed State of Mind, welcome. But yeah, that's something that air quality, you can only live 3 minutes without air, so it's kind of important, people. So, be sure that you have some different protocols in place. I don't know. I saw Oklahoma, but I didn't hear him. So
yeah, if you get a mask off of one of the websites, and make sure you get extra filters that have a current, not expired date, and have a carrying pouch for it too. They aren't very expensive at all. So.
Absolutely, and in most cases, such as this, I was talking to Oklahoma about this the other day when he brought up the subject, and I remember telling him, that would probably be good to have some plastic for around your vents and your windows and things like that. But honestly, as quickly as that stuff moves in the air to get towards you, if you know that there's some kind of a toxic spill, you just need to get away. Don't take the time to try to plastic up your windows and try to seal everything. Unless you just absolutely have nowhere to go, that's a different thing. But otherwise, you need to be sure and go ahead and just follow your safety. That's where an emergency bag comes in handy as well, and get out of Dodge. So anyway, I just thought, I can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry, I wanted to point out sour gas and what it can do. Sour gas attacks your central nervous system. Once it enters your lungs, immediately it's absorbed into your body and it hits your brain. That stuff will that is some scary. It'll paralyze you. You won't die immediately. It'll paralyze you, and the pain that you feel from that sour gas attacking your brain is one of the worst imaginable things that could ever happen to you.
So it's a neurotoxin.
It is also not. It cannot be odorized.
Wow.
So you don't smell it. You won't smell it. You'll just start. You'll convulse and do all kinds of stuff, and it will just destroy you. It is one of the most scary things you could ever have.
You never heard of sour gas. I've heard of sarin gas, but not sour gas. But I know they developed all kinds of stuff in World War I.
The name that the oil field calls for H2S.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up on this thing. But sour gas, also known as H2S, and somebody pointed out the proper name for it. I can't remember what it is, but it was one thing that stood out for me in my one of my hazmat classes that I took several years ago. That is the one thing that just absolutely stood out for me because it's just so dangerous, so deadly. And there's and I'm not talking when I talk about air quality emergencies. When we're talking about air quality, it's not just train derailments or semi-tanker crashes. It's also pipeline gas eruptions, pipeline gas leaks,
chemical.
All this stuff.
Colorado, they have a plant that's near them. That's a chemical plant. They're all required to keep an emergency bag on hand in the event that there's a leak that happens or whatever. So absolutely.
Just and it's not just there's chemicals. So we are all just surrounded by so many chemicals. If you have a water what are they called? Pretty much a sewage plant, a raw sewage plant. They're in a town near where I live. in Texas, in Wichita Falls. I think last year, I think 2 guys died when their air packs ran out, um, and they were exposed to some type of chloride gas. They worked in a sewage plant, and let me see if I can pull it up. Um,
And
basically,
those sewer gases are bad stuff for you too. Not only just the the gases in there, but then the stuff that's in the gases can get down into your lungs, and you can actually develop like a
Funk.
oh, like an infection in your lungs from the bacteria and the junk that's in there.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been asthmatic too. Although essential oils, using them regularly has really. I have not had to use my inhaler in like 3 years.
Great.
So almost since I started using essential oils, and I've only had maybe 2 bouts with my asthma, and my chemical sensitivity is almost down to nothing now. And it was I used to be highly chemically sensitive. It would throw me into an asthma attack and an instant headache besides the one I already have, different kind of headache, whenever I would smell chemicals. And now so much better. So, I'd encourage you that they help detoxify your body. If you've got a toxic liver, then your chemical sensitivity and your reactions to chemicals are going to be a lot higher. So if you keep essential oils going in your body, that'll help cut that down. But anyway.
And using natural things to clean in our house. I just use a citrus cleaner, vinegar and orange peels. And man, it makes a huge. I'm the same as We Tree. The smells kill you. Like, you go to a friend's house who's using glass plus cleaner with ammonia. I'm like, oh my gosh, my eyes start to water, and it feels like your nose inside is on fire.
Yeah, and see, essential oils are great for cleaning too. That's what you get out of the lemon or lime peels or orange peels whenever you use them for cleaning. So they're great that way. But and that affects your air quality in your home as well. So
yes,
be thinking about that. But go ahead, Oklahoma.
Sorry, Oak.
No, you're good. This particular chemical that I was talking about, that happened to these guys in Wichita Falls, I think it was last year, July 24th. I think it was either last year or 2 years ago. It was last year. Anyways, this was at a wastewater treatment plant in Wichita Falls. They it says here, both men inhaled lethal volumes of concentrated hydrogen sulfide gas at the plant. This is a gas common with working or living near water treatment plants. That this stuff is normally contained in pipes to where it can be evacuated from the area into safe holding tanks, and then transferred again to another holding tank to be taken off to a disposal area. These guys, what had happened is, they checked out their Scott packs or their SCBAs or their air packs, the same things that we use as firefighters. They picked them up, they put them on, and they went to work. What they failed to do was check the amount of air, breathable air, that was in the bottles, and they went in to do a routine maintenance check and repair a pipeline valve, and their air ran out. And so they didn't know, because they didn't check to see how much air was in the bottle. They didn't know how much time that they had to get out of the area. They use the same type of SCBA packs that we use as firefighters. when we know it's time to get out of that house and we have very little amount of air left is when that bell starts going off. That bell tells you that you have just enough air to get out of the house and
Wow.
then change out your bottle. And now
Mm.
imagine being in a water treatment facility where by the time that bell goes off, you could be 100 yards away from clean air.
Yes.
By
Mm.
the time, wherever you're sitting in your apartment or house or wherever you're at, think of how long it's going to take for you to get out. If I'm right next to my front door is like 4 feet away from me. If I had to go through my back door, imagine having to do that in the dark with not being able to see anything. Imagine that how long it's going to take for you to do that. And
Mm.
then you're running out of air, and that's the only amount of air you have left to breathe. Now you've got two people that have ran out of air and have to get 100 yards, 25 yards, 50 yards, however long it takes, down the hallway into fresh air.
Yeah, and I can tell you that not being able to breathe sucks.
Yes.
Having experienced
it really does.
It's horrible.
If you fumble, if you're putting on your Scott pack, one of the first things you do is put the pack on, then the mask, and then cinch it down, and then cover it with the hood. Well, while you're cinched down and covering your mask with the hood, you still have to reach down and connect the air hose to the mask. And if you're not able to breathe through that air hose or that mask, then that you're trying to suck in air that's not there, and you're
Mhm.
on a airtight face mask. That's a horrible feeling until
Mm.
you grab your air and then you're finally able to take a breath. So, when dealing with any type of chemical spill like this, the biggest things, the most important things you want to do is go uphill, upwind, away from the uh, it says if a
Gas.
in this, yeah, away from the area. When we have an immediate hot zone, a warm zone, and a cold zone, and that's a circle. That can be 100 yards away. At the from the hot zone and before you're in the warm zone, that's 100 yards. And now you have wind and atmosphere playing a role, and topography playing a role, and then if you're setting upwind and you've got a long stream coming off, and that's where your toxic gas is going. Now that area of the hot zone has just become longer and bigger. So it's really, you know, depending on where you're at is what's really difficult in this situation. Um, situation for a spill of this hydrogen sulfide gas. And what it's telling me from my emergency response guidebook says if a tank, rail car, or truck is involved in a fire, isolate for 1,600 meters in all directions. That's
Mm.
not taking into consideration any spill zone or downwind zone. That's 1 mile in all directions. Now, if you're downwind of this chemical spill, now you're talking about 4 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles downwind that needs to be evacuated. So you have to take into consideration and make sure that you're going upwind, uphill, away from the spill. That way you can get the best protection for yourself and for your family.
Absolutely. See, I love it when you can just say all of the smart stuff and I can say absolutely. Like I sound so smart because I'm agreeing with you. Isn't that
Well,
awesome? Like I
I mean, if
told
you
you,
think
if you
about it,
didn't show up, I would be like, we're changing the subject tonight because
yeah,
this is one thing I know a little bit about, but not enough to really do an hour of discussion on. So.
the best way. I mean, here's the best way to put it into terms that most of us know. If say for example you live in the country, and if you smell a skunk spray and the wind's coming out of the north, you're going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, believe me,
if
I
your
know.
house
I
is
have dogs
if
that
your
spray
house is down,
directly coming up to
yeah,
my front door.
if your house is downwind from that skunk, you're going to have a bad day. What happens if you go a half a mile over this way? You're not going to smell it as bad. What happens if you go a mile downwind of you? You're still smelling skunk. You're going to smell skunk for a long time. You
Yes.
Oh
know,
yeah.
it is to get, and it's the same way. You don't ever outrun a tornado going directly away from it. And you're
Mm-mm.
never supposed to outrun a tornado anyways. But if you're going to, the best bet is to go at a 90-degree angle from the tornado. But the
Mm.
tornado's moving north or south. You're not moving north. You're moving east or west away from it. That way you can
Right.
have a good
They're
profile.
typically going southwest, so you're going to go northeast,
You're going,
or you're going to
yeah,
go southeast to get
yeah,
away
you're going
from it.
in a, yeah, you're going at a 90-degree. If it's going north to south, you're going east to west. That way you can
Yeah.
look at it and still see that it's moving. That moving it along the horizon. If you
Yeah.
don't see it moving along the horizon, then it's either, very unlikely it's stopped moving, or it's coming either directly at you or away from you. You want to
Yeah.
make sure you see the direction. So it's the same. It's the same concept. Wind does change. Wind changes directions more than a woman can change her mind.
Hey.
Hey now,
Uh,
I'll
yeah,
pop a cap in your rear.
You might want to put a helmet on there, brother.
No.
I know, right? So, I was doing some burning the other day, and the wind was coming out of the north, or out of the south. I mean, going towards the north, and it was a big pile of trash that was burning. And you could sit there and see the wind making all these erratic movements, from east to west, and even from the north to the south, directly at me. So you're constantly moving. Wind is going to
Yes.
play a role in this. If it's going to be a windy day, that's probably the best bet to go directly away from the spill. I have, this issue with winds, sporadic wind movements, as bad as with a very highly windy day. So, you're basically in any type of spill, you want to be upwind or uphill from it. That's pretty much the best bet. Like I said, if you smell a skunk and you're downwind from that skunk, you're going to smell it all day. You're going to have a bad day. If you
They're
go
having a hard
away,
time hearing you again.
Yeah.
okay. If like I said,
There you go.
you want to be downwind. You want to be upwind or uphill from the chemical spill. Like I said earlier, if you smell a skunk and it's windy that day and you're downwind from that skunk, more than likely, you're going to have a bad day. If you move over or ahead of the skunk, upwind or away from it, you're going to get better. So that's the best. That's the best I can give for a scenario like that. Just stay away from the area, and if you cannot go upwind or uphill from it, go as far as you can. You better hope you've got enough gas to get about 15 miles away to another 100. That's
Wow.
spills like that are very dangerous and very toxic to the environment as well as our health. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
sour gas is one of the scariest things that you can come across. It paralyzes you. It causes your body to go into convulsions, and you can't escape it. There are corrosives out there that are that you can breathe in, and it pretty much melts your lungs. And this stuff is on our trains, going right next to our house every day. The only thing we can hope for is that train stays on the track. So I think that's going to do it for my little talk.
Hashtag deadly doggy farts in the externals.
Deadly doggy farts. There we go. We got it.
I like that you
Yeah.
talked about trains because that's our most likely situation for most of us,
It's not just that. Pipelines, of course, and then trucks, but trains carry the most. As far as aside from pipelines are less. You're less likely to have a pipeline incident
Mm-hmm.
than you are a train incident, especially right now. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we had one of our local politicians lobbying the federal government to build a monorail right by the volcano, so people could get from one side of the island to the other. And it's like the most stupid thing ever, because seismic activity in a volcano going through lava rock, the seismic energy travels at 55 miles an hour. So the first time there was any kind of earthquake, it would just totally destroy the monorail. And I said it would make a lot more sense for them to spend several $1 million on, instead of building a monorail, they should just build a couple of big trebuchets and just launch people with a parachute from one side of the island to the other, and it would be cheaper. Yeah, big.
They need one of those deals. Did you see where they had actually tried to, I don't know where it was, tried to make one of those pneumatic tubes like what you have at the bank that you put your deposit in, and then it sucks it through into the bank, and then it sends it back to you. They tried to make one of those for people.
Yes.
Well, I think it'd be better if you had like a ski lift going up the mountain and then like a zip to the top of the volcano and a zip line going down the other side.
Oh yeah, I'll come visit. Heck yeah.
People, they do have a zip line on the other side of the island, but people have died on that. So
yeah, that's a good. And they make them for high rises to get out, like from the roof for certain areas, and it's like being in a big stocking on there. And
they have one on a cruise ship. That one of those oasis of one of these one of the oceans has like that new cruise ship, and it's got like a zip line right down the center of it. It's so big.
Yeah, but they don't use them much in the U.S. like they do Europe, these big stockings. And, of course, you can't get through it if you're handicapped. But, boy, what a great way to get out, as a fire escape, to be able to lower yourself. And if you're not handicapped, you should be able to do it.
I would climb back up just to go through it again.
Yes, you would.
I'm coming down. No, Torres, go down the other way. Oh,
I developed a fear of heights, and I just don't like to do that kind of thing.
Really? Oh my gosh, that would be a blast. You know what came to my mind? That little pig from that commercial a couple of years ago. Wee, wee,
yes.
wee.
The little squealer. Yeah, he was cute.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think it's an interesting topic, and I know we could go on about it. For more on air quality, go over to Finger Lake Prepper's channel and check out they did on air quality as well, like with H2S and stuff.
Okay, so volcano. There's that's another thing you need an air quality for. Like we got a big active volcano here, and they just had one in Bali they had to close the airport. They canceled all the flights because they can't fly through with all that dust in the air. The engines will just die. And the plane will crash. So everybody's stuck on Bali, and they can't get out by plane, and because of the gigantic ash plume
cloud,
eruption.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, so real quick, we just have a couple minutes left. What do people think about the whole deal with the last launch that North Korea did, the height that they reached? Man,
I'm going to do my whole next show on that. I
can see an EMP happen pretty easily if they keep on. So
very scary.
Yeah, so my solution, as I said on the is to build a phalanx of Imperial walkers, 8 AT-ATs, and just send
our solution.
Well, I've made some progress on this actually. And what was my idea? It just send the 8 AT-AT stands for all-terrain armored transport, but we need to get like those plasma energy weapons on the new Ford carriers, Ford class carriers, and put them on the AT-ATs, except like scale down, so we could just launch them forward. I have many Botham spies have died, but I have attained the designs. That schematic for an AT-AT. Let's see if I can screen share it.
Yeah, nothing's more frightening than this North Korea thing that's been allowed to go on so long that it's
well, we're still at war. Technically, we're still at war.
That's just ridiculous.
Real quick, I wanted to say something else, and a couple of days ago, I think, what was it, day before yesterday, Oily, that I texted you and said that somebody was hit by a train here?
Yeah, it was, I can pull it up real fast.
But, okay, so we had that train
on Monday, this Monday. Yeah.
So Monday before that, we had a train derailment. Monday after that, we had someone get hit by a train. Okay, for those people that like to go out and take pictures.
Your volume again.
Tracks,
there we go.
Railroad is private property. That's government property. You're trespassing. There's no way in any situation that you're going to get permission to go on a live track and take pictures or play around or anything. So if you're going to be on tracks, make sure it's a dead track. Completely, there's no way that there's a train going to be on it. You shouldn't even be around any train tracks at all. Sometimes in power outages, the train, the bells and gates at a crossing will not work. So make sure that whenever you do approach a track, slow down and look both ways. If you are on a pedestrian crossing at a railroad track, make sure that you're paying attention, not looking down at your phone with your earbuds in, jamming out blaring music, because you're not going to hear or see the train if you're doing that.
Yeah. Your volume again.
Okay, now on to something important. Here's the design for the AT-ATs. Benny Botham spies died for this, so hopefully we can build one of these.
Let me present you.
AT-ATs. Really?
These would be great. Are you kidding? Instead of laser cannons, phased energy rifles. I mean, it would be just an awesome. I mean, they would run for the hills. It's a shock and awe weapon like Hannibal's elephants. They would just run for China.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, can you imagine if we actually built a phalanx of these and then sent them across the DMZ? They've never seen Star Wars in North Korea. They would just see these things coming and they would run.
I think we have a better shot of outfitting drones with C4.
Yes.
Flying them into
North Korea. ZPD was saying North Korea is fear porn. I'm not afraid of the hype the backbone of money puts into it. Look at the players. And yes and no, because, people don't take Kim Jong-un very seriously, but let me tell you, they didn't take Hitler very seriously either.
Right.
And look how wrong they were about that. So I'm sorry if somebody's out there saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do, and every action they're doing is showing that that's their goal, that's what they're going to do. That's something I guess we'll have to disagree on, because I think, it may never happen, but gosh, I'd rather be prepared and not have to worry about it.
We need to build AT-ATs that they just run for the hills. They actually, there is a larger scale version of this called a base defender AT-AT that basically it's so overpowered and has such heavy weaponry on it that as soon as an army sees one of these, they just run. So.
Well, it's after 9, so we probably better get off here. Before we do, I've been trying my hand at making soap homemade. So today I made my 3rd batch, and I'm really enjoying it. So
excellent.
I'll try to think about sharing some pictures next time. I'm just getting the basics down before I try to do the artistic stuff, making them look like cupcakes or something like that. But I'm just trying to get the basics down first, just making a basic lye soap. So that's pretty interesting, and I'll have to share when I'm a little bit more fluent at it, a little better at it. It's going to take a little time. So anyway, but I'll try to show some pictures for you next time so you can kind of see my soaps. And it's really very easy to make. You just have to remember you have to follow your recipes to the T, down to the ounce, down to the gram, because you want to make sure that your everything, you have to have your lye and your water and your oils all correct, So anyway, but it was good having you all here, and appreciate Oklahoma putting so much work into this presentation tonight to share his little heart out on all of the air quality stuff.
Did anybody get anything for prepper oriented for over the Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
No, I was broke and I didn't really care to go anywhere. So.
I bought an extra tarp off of Lost Wild Outdoors. They had a 9x9 tie outs that are reinforced, so it was on sale. So
excellent.
That was it. Extra tarp.
I made sure to do all my shopping before Black Friday.
Yes.
What I wanted, I knew was going to be there. And I don't mind paying extra to do it because...
Yeah, don't you like that? The prices are great, but out of stock, out of stock, out of stock.
Yes.
Finger Lakes, it's okay that you were late and wasn't been able to get on the panel. We completely understand. You know, everybody has stuff that goes on that they have to do, and that's just how it is. So I'm appreciative for all of you coming, and I appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll be back next Thursday with the Lord willing. So anyway, appreciate you. Thanks, and God bless. And if you need prayer, let me know. Love y'all. Bye, guys.
Aloha.